K4Wins. He is Case Kiefer. He is the man, the myth, the legend. You like him, you love him. You can't live without him. He's the dean of the music scene when it comes to all kinds of great picks in there. Las Vegas. Las Vegas Sun chief editor gets it done. Of course, you can also check out his wonderful articles. LasVegasSun.com, correct?
Yeah.
LasVegasSun.com. Check it out. It's fantastic. He is one of the few guys who has won a lot of awards, come in first place in many different things. And of course, he picks almost every single game, every single week, not only in college, but professional, which is pretty amazing stuff. So you got a good lean, and he's one of the best.
However, he did not win the last contest he was in, did he, Tony?
Well, you see when the man's trying to stir the pot, we have those bankroll contests. And I always tell my son, we had this thing up at work. We had a March Madness contest. My son was 10 years old, and you guys know my son Santo, and he is well steeped in sports. He knows his sports. He really does. He can name like the starting lineup for the Cavs. He knows his shit. And enough so that when I have questions, I ask him. Okay, now he's 21. He wants to get into sports management, blah, 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 blah. And I said, it's one thing to win a contest like the March Madness contest once, but you really got to win it twice in order to get the respect. And he goes, just like championships, right, Dad? I said, exactly. Everyone can pull a Larry Coker once in a while. Everyone can pull a Trent Dilfer once in a while. Everyone can pull that one championship, and that's great. It's not to say you're not great. Some people that win one championship are great. A lot of people win one championship aren't so much. But when you can get to two, that's really when, Peyton Manning, when he got his second one, that's when, but even Eli Manning, I mean, you make an argument he's won two championships. It kind of set him apart a little bit, despite the fact that is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer? I think you'd have to make that argument just because he's won two Super Bowls. So that sets you apart a little bit. So for right now, I have come in first in the bankroll contest. I humbly accept the $40 from Legend. I will go have a steak dinner this weekend, but I'm really nothing until I can knock off Case twice. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen. So I will humbly accept the award. And I told him yesterday and last week on Tuesday that if I had all my money, and I had my aunt, my uncle, my wife, my best friend, my son, and they had all the pile. He said, Dad, who should I listen to first? I would point to Case and say, play whatever he tells you to play. Don't listen to your old man. And I think that speaks for itself. Thank you.
My final word on the topic, just because Kai's dying for it. You can watch my segments. No one told me the rules changed. The only thing I have in writing is it's $150 for one pick or three picks for $50. I never even put out the money. I just gave three picks every week.
Your dad's the one that changed the rules.
Huh?
Your dad's the one that changed the rules.
Well, the way he tells it is that he threw you guys under the bus. That you guys came to him and wanted to change.
Oh, yeah. I know. He did. He threw us under the bus. I'm like, dude, you're the one that brought it up.
Yeah.
Because Legend was trying to figure out how to catch up. And he's like, and I said 3 weeks ago, because I said, listen, you have to do 3 games. Because this all started 3 games, $50 a piece. That's how it started. That's what it was. That was it. Then I said, well, so 3 games, $50 a piece, which I was totally good with. And then Legend said, well, can I bet 1 game for $150? And he goes, well, since we're giving you $150 credit every week, yeah, I guess you could do that. And he goes, what about parlays? Because the Legend was leading the whole thing along with David. He's the only one that's got help from his stinking brother. They hit like 3 parlays in a row, and they were so far ahead of everybody because they hit like 3 two-team parlays in a row. They ended up biting them in the ass at the end of the season. So the rules kind of changed. So next year we're going to have to sit down and go, listen, these are the rules, because it was kind of all over the place.
Yeah,
I would have never gone. If it was my real money, I would have never gone. I was 17. I would have never pushed all 1750. Now, if I'm in Vegas, I might have, but I would never push it all in until I heard Kai go all in, and then Kip went all in. I go, well, hell, if everyone's going all in, I might as well let it ride, because what do I got to lose?
Yeah, you can watch my segments. I never have any idea. I just give out the picks. It's fine. I will say I ran super hot this year. It's probably never going to happen again. I think I went undefeated like 5 or 6 times. I only had 2 losing weeks.
You did that. You did it last year. You did that. I got to give you credit. You did that last year. You hit a hot spot for about 4 or 5 weeks last year. I want to say it was from like weeks 10 to 14 or 15 where you were on fire. I think at one point, and this year, Kip even brought up at one point you were 11-1 over the course of 3 weeks. So you listen. All right, my hands are up in the air. You know where I'm coming from.
Kai said I lost the last competition, though. I don't know if it's true. I don't even think if Kip knows this. He'd probably like to know it. So no, but I was So it's just you've gone with awards and stuff. I was named the Nevada Sports Column of the Year for the
Yeah,
record.
there you have it. There you have it.
So I didn't necessarily lose the last one.
When was that awarded?
That's the thing. I was gonna say maybe it was awarded after the bankroll, but I think to be honest, it was before. So I guess your point still stands.
Now I will tell you, and I know there's all kinds of different contests going on right now. I have a contest through Matt Hageman, who's a friend of mine who watches the show religiously. He's a big cornhole guy. He runs the Alabama Cornhole Association, raises money for all kinds of worthy causes. He's a great guy. He does this bowl thing where you get awarded points. I guess there's 39 bowls or 40 bowls or whatever, and you pick 40 points, the game you love the most, and all you got to do is just win the game outright. I do need that from you. There used to be a site called the Prediction Machine that used to be kind of hot years ago, and it's gone now. I don't think it even exists. And I knew the friend, he was out of Cincinnati, who actually ran the program. And when he ran the program right, it was actually pretty good. And then he got some knuckleheads involved in it, some guys, and they just totally screwed it up. And now it no longer exists. But it was a good site for a while. The numbers were pretty good. And that fell apart about 3 or 4 years ago. So I used to play, whatever the percentages were based on teams, because just because a team is favored by another team doesn't mean that when you look like an FBI or something like that, the percentages aren't as good. For example, Alabama, I think right now, despite the fact that they're a 1.5 favorite, I think they're like a 49% to win the game. I don't know. A lot of people don't understand what that means. I do, but we're not going to get into that. So I do need sometime this week, if you don't mind, and I will even pay you for it because I've got this contest coming up, but I need the winners of all the bowl games from top to bottom to who you think are the best odds of, and all I got to do is win the game. It's not even against the spread. Will you do that for me?
I'll do my best. Obviously, the first one starts tomorrow, though. Does that throw?
Yeah. And actually, we have to have it in by tomorrow. So I will hit you up this afternoon again. I'd be more than willing to. I think there's 40 of us, and we're putting $10 in. So I'll split it with you.
You got to pick these without knowing who's opting in and out.
Yeah, basically, yeah. You sure do, yeah. And again, it's a little different this year because of the bowl, because the playoff situation. I mean, you're only playing to that first round, so. But it's fun, It gives everyone a chance to win some cash. It's kind of fun. It's kind of like what he does. He does the March Madness thing, and instead of doing the actual bracket, he does it by the end score. So if you have a 3 and a 2, and the score's 33-32, then you end up winning that game because of 3 and 2. Just something a little different, and it gets my kid involved in it a little bit. He likes the numbers anyway. All right, first round games, real quick. I wanted to ask you about national championship odds. Indiana 293.20, Ohio State 221.95, Georgia 550 to 600. Alabama still at 22 to 1, Ole Miss 22 to 1. Miami is from 22 to 1 to 27 to 1. I want to start right there because you and Kip are the only two that picked Miami as possible championship winners. And I applaud that effort because Miami obviously is not one of the best 4 teams, at least according to the CFP, yet you and Kip didn't know you picked Miami as well. Tell me why you believe Miami has got a sure shot at winning 4 games in a row to win the national title. And when it comes down to those numbers, that looks like it's pretty good value.
Well, I guess the simplest way of why I definitely think they have to be on the list, and I'm always going to probably have more teams. I think I realized when we did the exercise that I'm probably always going to have more teams than most people.
And that's why I said you can pick as many teams you want. Yeah. You can pick all 10 of them. That's fine. It's not whether who's right or who's wrong. I was just curious right off the top of my head because, for example, Texas Tech is one of those sexy teams that, I could see them getting beat the first week, and it would surprise me. But Miami's one of those games where I was really surprised that both you and your dad, who I value and respect your opinions, both had.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a result of, I always think about this stuff probabilistically, and maybe I should lower my threshold. But, it's just, we don't think about it in the time, but you can go back over the annals of sports history. It doesn't really work in college football because we've always had a smaller playoff, but the upsets do happen. These teams get hot at the right time and end up winning. So it's really hard for me to give many teams is like 0%, other than I don't think Tulane or James Madison have any chance. But everyone else, I think there's at least probably a minuscule chance. But Miami, I think the easiest way to explain it and why they would definitely be in my list, and it seems like they'd definitely be in Kip's list too. Let's just strip everything else away. What's happened this year, coaching, which is a big one you have to do. If like one of us were tasked with, okay, you have to take over a roster of one of these teams and win the college football championship for your life, who would we draft just off of players, just off personnel? I think Ohio State's the clear first choice. I mean, they have NFL guys at every position. They have just insane weapons. I got to say, though, just roster-wise, and with how you could make a case maybe Oregon, but they're super young, I really think Miami has the second best personnel. I mean, just wait until the NFL draft in April. They're going to have like 4 guys go in the first round. They've got 2 incredible edge rushers. They are just absolutely dominant in the trenches, which I think is important. I know Carson Beck's a coin flip of what you're going to get out of him week in, week out, but his top level is as good as anyone. He's got the receivers. I think Malachi Toney is going to win the award for most outstanding underclassmen. I can't remember I don't know if it's receivers, skill players. There's so many awards, I forget which one. If you look at Miami from a roster perspective, there's really very few weaknesses. I think they're stacked at every position. The only reason why I have any hesitance, and I think I have Miami at 55-1 to win the title from before the year. And I'd actually be really excited about that if they just got a different draw. If Alabama would have dropped like they should have, like every other conference champion was. The thing that scares me about Miami is you're going to have to go at Texas A&M, Ohio State, Georgia, and then whoever comes out of the top half. They got the hardest path by far. But just on paper, as far as their players, I don't think there's anyone that blows them out of the water.
And that is something that we never had to look at before. We have to look at the seeding. We have to look at that path, because you got 4 teams, obviously, Indiana, Ohio State, Georgia, Texas Tech, who are only going to have to play 3 games to win a national title. Everyone's going to have to win 4. Kai, give me that one team that you believe has got a shot at winning a national title that could throw up a dud early in the tournament. Could Ohio State lay up another? I mean, listen, they lost to a good Indiana squad. They lost 16-13. But is there because we've seen this from Georgia, we've seen this from Ohio State. They didn't particularly play well against Texas. Is there any team out there that you can see could just throw up a dud early in this tournament just because they're not playing well? And Georgia, for some reason, maybe want to make this question.
Well, I mean, I was going to say there's 0 chance Texas Tech loses week 1 because they don't play. But I think the team that could really throw up a dud is Ole Miss.
Okay.
Now maybe they do show up, but none of us know what all those kids, let's be honest, they're kids, are really going through with their coach gone.
Great point.
Again, I said it might be that they play better, when Case and I got into it the other day, because Kiffin's not going to be making stupid decisions for them. I'm going to go to my grave saying that, even though the analytics and all these different things.
Those stupid decisions have got him in a playoff for the first time since 1962. So, you say what
those stupid decisions kept them out of the playoff last year.
Yeah, well, that's 1 year, but they've gone back-to-back double-digit wins. You don't do that at Ole Miss. So
you do with the talent they have.
Yeah, but they've got the talent, and they have the opportunity to be in that position for him to fail because Kiffin.
Yeah, but he's going to make a mistake next year that costs LSU somewhere also, where he should have kicked an extra point or kicked a field goal from the 10-yard line that ends up costing them in the end when they lose. But I digress. I think Ole Miss, could be there, in that game, and then The other one I expect Alabama to beat Oklahoma, unless Ty Simpson is really hurt, which that's sitting out there, and more stuff's coming out every day, and how much do you actually believe that you hear there? But if that's true, Alabama could lay it. But I expect in the next game, if Alabama does beat Oklahoma, I expect them to absolutely get throttled by Indiana, which people are like, "Oh, you're crazy, you're crazy, you're crazy." I'd be interested to see what that line Case, if there's a look ahead at that line, what it is.
Indiana, Alabama. What would that line be, Case?
10, I think. I don't think there's a look ahead. This is just off the top of my head.
Wow, that's amazing. I would have thought
that right there will break Legends' heart, just because they're a 10-point dog to what used to be the worst football
Wow.
team in America.
Well,
Was
you
the last
also
time?
it also could change if Alabama has a really good performance at Oklahoma. I could see that changing, going down, but I'd be pretty surprised if it's anything less than 7.
And this is one of those things. This is one of those things for Legend. It's a cultural bias, right? I mean, he's sitting there looking at it. He's like, I cannot believe it's a smelly fish. I cannot believe it's a cultural bias. You're so used to seeing something from a particular team forever. It's so much like the Kansas City Chiefs right now. Right? I mean, they're got a losing record. They're 6-7 for God's sakes. When are we going to learn that they're not that good of a football team this year? They're falling
So,
apart.
so,
I mean, this is
so
not. This is not.
that brings up what we were talking about before. And I don't know if you see the lines. I haven't seen the line for tomorrow night. What's the Arizona Alabama basketball line tomorrow night? Because I haven't seen anything, the day before.
I'll look real quick. I don't think
As we jump to college hoops. By the way, for people that you can tell where Kai's money's going because we jump around a little bit. Next thing you know, we're going into like ECHL hockey game here in just a second. That game, by the way, is in Birmingham, so a lot of people are wondering why we're bringing that up, and obviously we're in Alabama. So Alabama, Arizona tomorrow.
Nothing yet. No okay. Line yet.
What do you think? What do you think it should be?
I'm trying. I'm not trying to get in any head-to-head this week. I'm in a better. Okay. You got me all fired up from Notre Dame, but I honestly would like Alabama in the game. I'm still just not sold on Arizona. I think it's going to be like 1.5 either way.
Okay, Case, give me a team that could win a national title, but it could also lay an egg early in the tournament. Whether it's one of those 4 teams that has the bye, and of course, all 4 teams who had a bye last year, what they do? They lost. They all lost in that first week. And, of course, we've changed the seeding process a little bit, so it's not the same as it was. Thank God we changed the seeding process. But give me one of those teams at Ole Miss. I thought that's very good because, I don't know where these kids' heads are, but give me a team that could lay an egg.
Yeah, Ole Miss is a good one. I agree with Kai's overall sentiment there. I guess I have kind of a hot take. It's just too bad Kip is not here to see it. I wouldn't say I'm totally worried about them, but compared to where the market is now, like I just said, I think they'd be a 10-point favorite over Alabama. And I've been betting them all year. I think I might be selling Indiana in this playoff. They came out of the Big Ten championship. Really? They came out a little banged up. I think like 3 guys got hurt. And then if you saw the footage, their best defensive lineman was just like literally giving high fives after the game. Something popped in his leg. There was radio silence for days. And just yesterday, Signetti came out and said, it was a freak injury. He's out for the year. So they have lost some guys. And now, like I said, I think the market's just caught up. I mean, all year I felt like their numbers were too low. But maybe it's still to be seen. Maybe there's enough people that are skeptical of them that they do play Alabama and it comes out and Torrent of money goes the other way and they're like less than a touchdown favorite. I just kind of have a tough time seeing that being the case. So I kind of feel like Indiana might be a little overvalued. I would keep your ear to the ground and see what happens with some of these other injuries. I think an offensive and defensive lineman that weren't Daly, the guy that got hurt at the end of the game, exited the Big Ten championship game. I think maybe one of them came back. One of their receivers got hurt, not Surratt, but I think the starter on the other side. So I think there's some. It seems like Indiana stayed mostly healthy throughout the year. Now all of a sudden there's some injury questions, and even if they get past the Alabama or Oklahoma winner, which they should, I mean they're going to be like a touchdown favorite. You got to remember if it's Oregon, for example, they were dogs to Oregon, touchdown underdogs earlier in the year. Who knows? Oregon could be the flip if they could be getting a lot of guys healthy. I still really like Indiana. I also just had this thing in the back of my mind where I just never felt like a team was going to go undefeated through. This is stupid. There's no way to really quantify it, but I always kind of felt like a team would not go undefeated through the regular season and the 12-team playoff and be undefeated, undisputed national championship. I just feel like the teams are grouped up more than that. So right now, for the first time this year, I'm kind of a sell on Indiana. Another reason why I said I wish Kip was here to hear it. I haven't ultimately done it, and I don't know if I will. But if I had to make a national championship bet right now, I think 6-1 on Georgia is a little crazy. I think there might be value on that number, to be honest. I don't think there's a huge gap with the way they're playing right now compared to Indiana and Ohio State. And I think they're going to be the biggest favorite in the second round. I think I said this on Tuesday. They're the one team that I would be really shocked if they're not at least in the semis. So like someone reached out to me asking who to bet a future on now. If I had no other money, I think I would bet Georgia 6-1. Ultimately, I haven't done it. So that shows you my conviction isn't all the way there. Still skeptical of this team in some areas, and we've seen the offense, be up. And I mean, even against Georgia Tech, they couldn't score. So I don't necessarily love it. I just think 6-1 is quite. It's quite attractive when they're like 3 times the price of Ohio State and Indiana.
He's not here to refute this, but Fernando Mendoza, 33 touchdowns, 6 picks, QBR of 88.4. He's thrown for nearly 3,000 yards. Can Fernando win a football game for Indiana if he needs to? Kai?
Yeah. I mean, why would we say no? I mean,
Well, I mean, I know Kip would say I know Kip would say no, and he doesn't want him to win the Heisman Trophy. I look at the numbers, and I've not followed him all season long. I've seen him game in and game out, and obviously, looking at the numbers, he looks fantastic. QBR is nothing to sneeze at. And if he wins a Heisman Trophy, of course, I could also say that about Gino Torretta.
He's actually had multiple Heisman moments, also, and probably more than anybody else. I mean, Jeremiah Love had the spin move against Pitt. I'm sure Pavia has something against like Georgia Southern State or somebody that they played where he had a huge moment. But Mendoza did it at Penn State on a huge third down conversion. The throw to the back of the end zone to his receiver, who, let's be honest, made probably the catch of the year, getting that foot in. I mean, everybody has seen that play now. That was a Heisman moment. I think he had a couple of Heisman moments against Ohio State, especially on one of the drives that was key. A third and short, he threw a deep pass down the middle, which was a beautiful pass. But I think he can absolutely put a team on his back and carry them, as well as any quarterback that's left. I mean, of the 12 teams, what other team has a quarterback that can put their team on their shoulders and win it on his own? Maybe Marcel Reed, but what other team would you feel confident about? I mean, Gunnar Stockton? No. Ty Simpson?
Yeah, when I pose that question, I'm looking at Dante Moore. He's quietly had a really, really good season. I think 25 touchdowns, 5 picks, 6 picks, something like that. And his QBR is right around 80. He's just been really, really consistent. You know exactly. There's something to be said about a quarterback. You know what you're going to get game in and game out. And Dante Moore's done everything he needed to do at Oregon. He's led his skilled players, and they've been banged up quite a bit throughout the entire season. He's done a really good job. If you had to pick one quarterback, Case, Pavia or Mendoza as your quarterback for a national championship run, who would you take?
I mean, Mendoza, without a doubt.
Yeah,
this is why I think
I know it's a question out there, and I'm like, really? I mean,
I think we did come to some common ground or kind of understand once we talked through it last week. I do think this isn't the strongest Heisman crop. I mean, you just look at Mendoza's numbers compared to like some of the past quarterbacks, and it's not the same. But I mean, Kip's always the guy banging the table of you need to watch these guys and watch the games. Like, I don't see how anyone could watch Fernando Mendoza and Diego Pavia. And Pavia does amazing things. He's fun. You could say he's more fun to watch, but I don't think anyone could watch those two side by side and come to the conclusion that Pavia is better. That's a little crazy to me. So Mendoza would be my clear one. And then you mentioned the second guy that jumped out in my mind would be Dante Moore. I think at his best he's been at that level. I still don't fully trust him. I mean, a couple of their tougher games, Indiana the first time in Penn State. I'm not really a film guy, but I did dive into someone had something really interesting. I think about those two games where they just really mixed coverages and mixed their looks a lot. He has all the physical tools. Is just as far as reading defenses, and I think if you switch between zone or man, do some more NFL style stuff where you're fake who's coming, he might not be the sharpest in that regard. So it kind of scares me. He'd have to do it 4 straight games, but at his best, I think Dante Moore's top level would put him second to me.
Great point. I'm glad you brought that up because he seems like he could be a guy that could go second, third round in the draft and then maybe have a lot of upside if he gets with the right coordinators in the National Football League. If he can learn on the spot, maybe hold a clipboard for a couple of years and really learn the process of the game, and it slows down just a bit for him. I think he's got the tools, the skill set to be special.
But we hadn't talked about the other one, and let's be honest, Texas Tech would be undefeated if their quarterback had been healthy all year.
True,
just point blank, and he can carry a team a little bit. I think I would put him probably as number 2 as I think about it, ahead of Moore and Marcel Reed, personally.
I haven't loved Texas Tech's offense down the stretch. Now it might not matter because they're so good defensively and so good in the trenches. And also, it might not be all his fault. I mean, their skill players, I feel like, are a little bit behind some of these other contenders. I know they lost the USC running back whose name I can never remember before the season. They lost some other guys, so injuries were part of it. But I mean, Texas Tech, they're just suffocating these teams right now. They haven't really had to do enough offensively. At some point in the playoff, we'll see if they're up to it. I'm not saying they're not. I'm just saying I'm not as sold on their offense as some of these other teams.
No,
and Love in their last game, all anybody talked about was J-Rod, and then Roberts comes through with two great, one-handed interceptions, and their linebacking core. I mean, those guys are great. I just don't know if they're fast enough to keep up with the people from
Texas,
Indiana,
Texas Tech, Texas Tech, you're talking about?
Yeah.
I watched them for the first time all year from start to finish against BYU, and I did it obviously because I had my entire bankroll riding on it. I couldn't believe how fast that defense is. They swarm. I mean, if you want to look at the word swarm up in the dictionary, you'll find a picture of their defense. They had 3 and 4 guys on the tackle every fucking play. I mean, I could not believe it. It was even like quick little swing passes and stuff. There were 3 or 4 different guys. They swarm the football and they play till the end of the whistle echo for sure. By the way, Baron Morton's their quarterback. A lot of people don't even know who this cat is. 22 touchdowns, 4 picks. He's 72.2 QBR, which puts him about 67th overall in college football. So he's right there in the mix, 2,643 yards. But to your point, he reminds me a little bit of that pitcher who is a really good pitcher, but everyone knows he's a good pitcher. And so the offense seems to sit. He's I'm trying to think, Keynes. He's a little bit like Skeens from the Pittsburgh Pirates. But every time he goes out there, he's throwing lights out, but his team only scores 1 or 2 runs because they know how good their defense is. That defense is that good. They really are. They're number 1 against the run by a long shot. They have not allowed a 100-yard rusher. I think they're giving up like 67 yards per game. They have not given up a 100-yard game all year long. And again, when you're talking about football team, if this was James Madison, or this was Tulane, I would scurry it and say, listen, because just by the competition they played, I could not put enough emphasis or equity into the fact that they played a good defense against that schedule. But with Texas Tech, I think that's a defense that could really change some games. A couple of picks and a couple of turnovers, I think they could totally change a game on its ear, and that goes all the way up to the top level. But that's a team that no one's really talking about. What are they? Were they 5 to 1, something like that? 850 to 1, 8.5 to 1, 9 to 1. That's a team that do you find some value there?
I haven't, I usually like to ride the futures I already have. This year, it's not going to be great because I don't really love my position going into this. So I haven't looked heavily at adding anyone. I think I did see them as high as 10 to 1, and that could be interesting as well. I also don't. Their path is another one that kind of scares me. I think that Texas Tech Oregon game in the second round is just basically going to be a straight coin flip to me. I think it's going to be like a pick 'em. We'll see where the money goes. So that's a real deterrent to jumping in on them. But I mean, certainly I know people that jumped in on them early in the year when they were like up to 50 to 1 or 30 to 1. Certainly that was a great bet. I just you got to try not to have that fear of missing out and jump in at a much smaller price. I'm still also just kind of concerned about the Big 12. I mean, we just really haven't seen. Kai mentioned the team speed. I feel like these Big 12 teams just. I don't think they've played anyone on the level of who they're going to play, like second round Oregon. I'm not saying they're going to lose. I just there's enough questions in my mind that I wasn't jumping at it, but. If you could get like the 10 to 1, they would be. Georgia's still the first team I would bet if I had to right now, 6 to 1. But Texas Tech would certainly be in the conversation for another team I'd be looking at value.
K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. By the way, I've been holding on to this. We're going to give you our numbers for year to date for 2025 in just about 5 minutes. It's worth the listen because you're going to be blown away just how well we've done with our lines. I wanted to promote that before we actually throw out those numbers, and Kyle will have those. We have also big ball games going on tomorrow, and everyone keeps forgetting we have this Boise State Washington game, which is just kind of like an outlier, just hanging out there. But yeah, we got college football tomorrow night, which is fun. Normally we only have the one game with Army Navy. Let's go there. Navy 6, and it's up to 38. I see that over under quivering a little bit around that 37.5, 38 number. Anything changed for you guys on Army Navy? Again, we can expect just a mud bath at 20-17 a game, and I think a lot of people are kind of leaning towards Navy. You've got a kid who's in the services. Kai, what's your thoughts?
I was really excited about the team total for Navy, but now it's jumped. It started at 20. It's up to 21.5, which with a 38-point total. But I still love Navy to score 24 points in this game. I know everybody wants to go under. I don't think either one of these teams' defenses is worth a flip. I think Heidenreich has a great game. If Horvath gets hurt or has to come out, backup quarterback for Navy can run like the wind, and he's got a decent little arm. I think Army is supposed to be missing their middle linebacker is what I saw in something. I don't know if it is true or not. If he's out, he's their leading tackler. as well, and really is the one that would be there to shut down that fullback dive that they do so well. I love Navy even all the way up to 7.5. I might get scared, but I actually think this is a 10-point game. And I've been wrong before, obviously, but and then like I said the other day, I love the teaser with getting Boise all the way up to 16.5 or 17 if you can with Navy at a pick, because I like Boise against Washington. I may be an outlier, but you're giving me 10 points. Hell yes, but I think Boise wins the game straight up.
Boise's been hard to put your finger on this year, and I know you had them going to the championship or actually being one of the 12 teams. I had South Carolina. Obviously, we both came out a little short there, but a little different. Before we move on to that game, though, real quick, I love Horvath. I think he's been fun to watch. I think I love this system. You look at the numbers: 9 touchdowns, 5 picks. 68.6% QBR. It's not good. 1,390 yards. Obviously, like, what is he, a backup or something? No, he plays for Navy. And obviously, you look at his rushing yards. Does he have any place in the National Football League? This could be it. This could
be great for a Navy quarterback.
No, you don't have to be. That's what I'm saying. You look at those numbers any other time, you go, that's ridiculous. But I mean, we know what he does from a rushing standpoint, and obviously, teams in the National Football League don't play that type of offense. They don't do the RPO thing a lot. But does Blake Horvath have any spot in the National Football League case?
It's not something I've heard anything about. I would hate to sit here and say definitively no, because maybe he does. But
he'll have one more game after this, and that's why I bring it up, because I would love to see him continue to play somewhere. I think he's fun to watch, and I love his heart. I really do.
Yeah, he's definitely fun to watch. I don't know size-wise. I think he's a little bit smaller, which is always going to hurt him. But who knows? He's probably had the production that maybe he has a pro day or gets some looks. But certainly not one of the many quarterback names I've heard out. I've heard thrown out about scouts monitoring.
6'2", $195 for sure. Okay, your thoughts on the Boise State Washington game? Boise State outright winner tomorrow night, is a possibility?
Unfortunately, we're oppo on both accounts of this game. I will say I don't feel super strongly about either one, but I mentioned earlier in the week I bet Army a little bit. I will say I feel like I'm the only person in the world on Army. Every single person I've talked to or heard talk about this game is on Navy, and sometimes that gives me a little confidence. Not necessarily in this case, because even people that are betting more than me, that are doing this at a really high level, I've heard are laying it with Navy. But I got one of probably the only +7s that was available. I just jumped on it with Army. I just think if you isolate for just over the last month or so, I think these two teams have been pretty even. I have bigger questions about Navy's defense than any unit on the field. And you just flip like one or two things, and I think this number's a lot shorter. I mean, it was just, I think 4 weeks ago, Army basically had Tulane beat. They gave up 2 scores in the final 10 minutes to lose by a point. I mean, if they beat Tulane, they're the toast of the town, and really they were right there. So I took the big number with Army. I didn't play the total, but God, just with how bad these defenses are, especially Navy, I could only bet over, despite the service academy's trends. I'm not going to bet it, but yeah, if you're holding me to the fire right now, I would lean more over there. And Washington Boise State game, it just came down to me more than anything. I think Boise State's going to have more opt-outs in this game. I think normally you would expect it the other way. You would expect the power conference team to have more opt-outs. Just when I go strictly numbers, it comes out a little higher than this. I came out like Washington 11.5, and I think in most years then you knock it down a few points because you think that the Big Ten team's going to have some guys leaving, and they will, but I don't think they're going to have as many as Boise. Boise isn't publicly disclosing who's not going to play, but there's a lot of rumors, especially they have an NFL left tackle. I think his name's Cage Casey or something like that. He supposedly hasn't been practicing. There's a lot of talk he's already NFL bound. They have 2 of their 4 starting defensive backs are going to be out. And Boise over the years, I don't know how much I put into this, but they've played really poorly in the postseason. They have a really bad bowl track record. I know I'm usually the first guy to say, well, I don't really care what this team did 10 years ago, but Spencer Danielson's been there the entire time. And I think it might be something a little more tied to the program, the step up in class. I think they have a huge home field advantage with the blue turf, with that elevation at Boise. We see a lot of these Mountain West teams. The Mountain West usually looks pretty good on paper, although I don't know if that's the case this year. Then they go in the out of conference, and they're just not the same. So I just really kind of feel like this should be double digits, and I ended up firing a little bit on Washington -9 earlier this week.
Boise State 7-4 against the spread this year. We brought that up on our show on Tuesday. Of course, we do our show every Tuesday and Friday, 10 o'clock Central Time right here. And special thanks, of course, to 102.9 The Game, and also down there in Fort Myers. We've also got some radio stations up in the Cincinnati area picking up our show. And Beeson is our next big fish we're going to get. Also Audacity and everywhere else you can find your favorite podcast. We can find us there at the starting lineup, as well as our TV show on Saturdays. Again, we brought this up too. I hate the fact that there's even another game. The Army Navy should be the only game on Saturday. Period. I mean, and it used to be the Cincinnati Reds used to be the first pitch every year because the first Major League Baseball team. And there's a little bit of me that hates the fact that they no longer have that first pitch anymore. But I'm a purist when it comes to that. I think Army Navy should have its own day, so they should have it. Let's look.
Some law changed. It used to be against the law for there to be another game on Army and Navy, and I guess it ran. I heard something about that this week.
I'm sure that probably Joe Biden or Obama changed it.
That's where we need to have an executive order, for God's sakes. I mean, let's talk about the stuff that really means a lot. We do have our two shows, but we have bowl games going on, and people are like, there's too many stinking bowl games. There's never enough college football. I don't care who you are. You're an idiot. If you think if a 5-win team, I don't care if a 3-win team. Anytime we got college football on television, it's a great day. I don't care if it's the only game on television. Give me more college football. I love it. So we do have the Troys and the Jacksonville States, the Old Dominions and the South Floridas, which, by the way, is a really interesting game. I want to talk about that because South Florida, Old Dominion, both 9-3. You think about all the things that South Florida's been through so far this year. I would have thought that line would be 6 or 7. It's only 3. Louisiana, Delaware, Missouri State, Arkansas State, a bunch of games playing there in the teens in December's. Are there any games that are kind of sticking out to you guys that perhaps could kind of fly under the radar that some people want to put some money on? You have a big cat just ate the bird and look on your face there, Case. What do you got?
Well, it was 6 or 7, and a bunch of us, myself included, jumped on Old Dominion with but before it was fully
7.5. It opened 7.5. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got Old Dominion plus 7. One of my biggest bets of bowl season so far. South Florida's basically whole coaching staff's not going to be at the game, but their offensive coaching staff. I think they have some defensive guys that are holding over. They're already at Auburn working on getting that class together. And then it wasn't announced right away that Brown wasn't going to play, but the writing was kind of on the wall that he was either going to declare or go to Auburn. So I think that was there, and I think a lot of players are also going to follow Golesh to Auburn. So I think South Florida is going to be without a whole lot of personnel. So I jumped on the Old Dominion plus 7. Then I woke up the next day and it was down to like the 3.5. This is the difference in bowl season. Like if I was just making this number, straight up with how the teams played in the year, I would agree with you. I think they should be a 6 or 7 point favorite, but I think Old Dominion is going to have a lot more guys, and they were pretty good this year. They were the second best team in the Sun Belt. The Sun Belt just still has division, so they couldn't play for the championship game. Their quarterback did opt out, so they're not without anything, but they have a pretty big recruit for Old Dominion standards as their backup, their freshman. I think he had to start one game this year and ran for like 200 yards. So they're probably going to radically change their offense. They have their coaching staff in place. I just don't see how South Florida prepares for this without their coaching staff going up against a different offense. Half their team's probably out the door. So this is one where situationally, I think there was a lot of value on Old Dominion, and at over 3, I would honestly still probably lean that way.
Any other games, Case, that just kind of sticking out to you? Because we pick them all, man. We look at everything going on, and obviously people are going to be looking at the national championship race. But there are so many great bowl games that there's nothing worse than waking up a half an hour into a ball game going, damn it, I forgot to put that in last night. And then all of a sudden it's kicking off at 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning. And Kyle, I'll throw it to you too, because obviously you've had a really good grip on the early numbers in the bowl season so far.
Well, none of them kick off before Tuesday, after this weekend. So, I mean, that's a big thing. We'll have another show before then. And I honestly, I told you before we came on that I've been like just plugged in looking at basketball for tonight and tomorrow. But, I'm kind of interested in a game next week. I want to see who plays for Western Michigan. I really like what Mac has done at Kennesaw State, catching 4. I'm just not sure. Western Michigan, I think, is going to try to run the ball a little bit in that game. But I really like watching Kennesaw State the other day, what their quarterback is doing right now. So that one that's coming up, I think it's Friday of next week, Friday at 10 o'clock next week. I'm interested in that game. Probably have a play on that by Tuesday.
Okay, good. Give me the numbers. What we got? This is the end of the year. We usually have our best Movies of the year, the best stories of the year, person of the year. And so everyone's coming up with their numbers. And so we're finally getting down to the nitty gritty here for 2025 and how this particular, how long we've been doing this, a year and a half, something like that. It's amazing how time flies, but how are our numbers looking?
I mean, and we've had a great year, and we talked on Tuesday about people that are hitting, above 60%, yada yada yada. They're probably lying if they say they're 70% and all that. And yeah, I mean, and we started out gangbusters last month, 62.4%, 103, 62 and 5, $100 better was up $3,400 with us just in the month of November. But year to date, we're at 62.7%. 1,092 and 647. $100 better is up $38,000. Now we don't do, we talked about in the starting lineup. We don't do the stupid things where we say, hey, because there's a lot of these. I know, I'm sure Case has seen them. They want you to pay them $500 for their game of the year every single week, and then it's a minus 300 favorite that they want you to put $1,000 on, but you got to risk 3,000 to win 1,000. We don't do that. Case and I have argued about placing people taking favorites over minus 150. And, I've come around to his way of thinking a little bit. If it wins, the hell do you care? But, so I've gone away from that. But, hey, I'm tell you what, also, our hockey, Case and Kip, don't miss very often in hockey. I mean, I think some of our worst hockey nights have been 2-1. And so, we've had a good year. Last year was a good year, our first year starting off. And I'd encourage people to jump on and subscribe because, hey, it's a lot of fun.
It is. K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. Like we say, man, the wife doesn't mind if you gamble as long as you win. If you're coming home with extra cash over the holidays, she doesn't give a squat. Now, when you burn through the mortgage, she's not real happy about that. But as long as you're coming home with a little extra cash in your pocket, she's getting a 1 carat instead of a half carat. She's happy with the holidays for sure. I want to ask you too, since we're
take as much as mine does.
Yeah, really. Well, when it's your business, I mean, they're just going to have to get over it. Case, what is there anything in particular? And I've been holding on to this question for the end of the year, and here we are in the middle of December because we only have a couple more shows left before 2026. Is there anything from a gambling standpoint in your year been a little interesting, eyebrow raising? Wow, I didn't see that coming. That trend certainly is something that was kind of strange, or something maybe you saw ahead of time, because there's been so much going on with the transfer portal and the NIL, and the college game is changing. Now we're talking private equity. I know private equity came into play yesterday. There's now a company that's in bed with the Utes. They promised them they're going to give them $400 million to put in their NIL. So the collective business is going away. It's now turned into a business itself. But is there anything from a gambling standpoint that has kind of made Vegas go, or something you're thinking about down the road?
Not necessarily. I know also the private equity at Utah. I think UNLV announced earlier this week that they're the first of what's going to be many to have a jersey sponsor next year, where they're getting like $2 million a year or something like that. Yeah, I would just say, I mean, this year especially, I think I've talked about it throughout the year, but looking back to the start of the season, it's just, man, I just think these teams are more 1-year entities than ever. I feel like I've had to change my process a lot, because I was always heavy on priors and what I thought of a team coming into a year would eventually play out by the end, despite what might happen in a game or two. And I still think there's some element of that, but I think more than ever, you just gotta dial down the past and what you thought about a team coming into the years. There's just so much turnover, and just I really feel like these teams are the same 1 year and then different the next, especially the lower you get down. I know some of the top programs now we've seen have pretty good continuity with the way they can flex their dollars. But man, I just used to be you could have a pretty good overall feeling of college football, and I just feel like you toss that all out the window now, and it's just every year I feel like you got to kind of start from scratch. So I think I'm going to try to probably be more aggressive from that approach going into next season.
And kind of we're seeing, and I had a really interesting conversation I do every week with Mark Ingram, who's the AD at UAB. He made his hire, Alex Mortensen. I think that was a guy he had to get. And sometimes they're like, yeah, sometimes the best picks are underneath your nose, but I think that's the only thing that's under your nose. So I think that's why they went that thing. But when you talk about Signetti, you talk about Key, Dillingham, Brom, Rule, Lashley, we get through all these different guys that everyone thinks in the past you're from this group of 5 school, and certainly you're going to take a Power 5 school, right? Particularly right now. And a lot of these guys are staying put. And because of that, they're starting to find money to help these guys stay put. What's your thoughts? I like that. I think I'm a loyalty guy. I hate when people jump around all over the place. I understand why they do it. I get it. I'm not saying I wouldn't do the same damn thing that Lane Kiffin did. By the way, Mark said he was totally cool with the way he left Ole Miss. And I was like, okay. He said, this is the way it is, the business we're in right now. And if you don't see it coming, on you. If you know your old lady's cheating on you, then you need to get out of the relationship. That goes for Michigan or anywhere else. But are you pleasantly surprised, because we've had more coaches this year losing game jobs than any other year we've had in college football?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
I don't either. No, are you just happy? Are you just happy from a loyalty standpoint? I mean, because everyone was like, no one's going to stay at Indiana. No one's going to stay.
Well,
No one's going to stay at Georgia Tech. No one's going to stay. No one's going to stay at. I mean, you got the opportunity for a lot of these guys to be going to the Michigans and the Miamis and the Penn States, and they're staying put. They're like, you know what? I don't want to get involved in it. I like where I'm at.
Well, I mean, Matt Campbell. Why, if you're the 40th choice, do you leave Iowa State to go to Penn State? With all the crap they've been through? I understand there's more money. It's one of the top 5 size stadiums and all that. But Jim Mora turned around UConn. Why do you leave UConn to go to Colorado State? I mean, it'd be different if you went to a team that has a history of winning. What have they ever done? I mean, hell, besides pick old Georgia offensive coordinators and then fire them out there. Josh Heupel gets a lot of grief for how loyal he is to his assistant coaches. And then this year he fires Tim Banks, which I still totally disagree with, even though Tennessee's hiring Jim Knowles, who has a history of being a very good defensive coordinator. I think Tim Banks is one of the top 10 defensive coordinators in the country who got a bad rap at Tennessee this year. He gets the blame when he shouldn't. I mean, he absolutely should not get the blame for how beat up they were, how young they were. And all those things. I think the Virginia Tech's going to find that they have a super, and this is going to shock y'all, a super loyal coach. James Franklin would have stayed at Penn State another 20 years if they'd have kept him. And I still think that firing was crazy. But I mean, we talked about it yesterday. Virginia Tech's recruiting class goes from 130 to top 30 with them. And what kind of situation is Matt Campbell going to walk into a Penn State when they had one recruit? Or something like that. And just seeing some of these things, a lot of which I kind of wonder, this brought me into something also, and I'm kind of changing on it, but how focused is Oregon going to be also when their offensive coordinator is going to Kentucky as a head coach and the defensive coordinator is going to Cal? Just something to think about. How focused are they going to be? On that. And
hold on, because that's a great point. From a handicapping standpoint, how often do you look at that kind of stuff, Case? Because you're sitting there nodding your head, and a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, this is the time of the year we need to look at some staffs before you start putting out your wallet.
Yeah, that definitely crossed my mind. It's a hard thing to quantify, but I mean, it's undeniable that these guys, especially the ones taking head coaching jobs like Stein and Tupui, or however you say his name, going to Cal, it does matter. And it's like the one black mark on Oregon for me, because I look at Oregon and I really feel like they check a lot of the boxes, especially if they get some of these players back as a team that can make a surprise run. But you do kind of have to weigh that with, okay, how locked in are their coordinators going to be when they're leaving for another job? So I think it certainly has to be a factor. It's just it's just a hard one to actually put into a number, but yeah, it's probably worth a point and a half or so.
And how focused is Chaney going to be at James Madison, knowing he's leaving, for UCLA, because he's still coaching them, but how locked in is he going to be, and is Billy Napier going to be up in the press box calling down anything? Which, golly, what a fall from grace he's got.
Yeah, I think I read a story about this maybe this week or something. I was thinking about it, and I can't remember who it was, but someone that was in the situation before was just saying, like, they said, okay, I'm the, let's say it's Chesney, I'm the James Madison coach from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Then the other hours, I'm the UCLA coach, and that's just insane. Obviously, not leaving a lot of time to rest, but there's just things that have to get done if you're going to this new program too. You got to try to keep up with the kid, with your next class. You got to kind of try to put the bones of the scheme in place. So yeah, it's certainly a lot, and I don't think there's any way you can slice it that's a positive. It's just a question of how well do you balance the two. I'm sure some guys will do it better than others.
We had Tim Brando on our television show last year, and we asked him the question, which protege or which disciple, if you will, of Nick Saban, will win a national title first. And he said Billy Napier at Florida. So Billy Napier is going to be, I think, by far, I think he's going to be the next shot. And I was like,
I'd pick
okay.
Kirby Smart.
Yeah, I probably would too. All right, before we get into some college hoops and some other sports pros, we like to hit the pros a little bit harder here on Fridays than we do on Tuesdays. Bills, Pats, Colts, Seahawks, great games. Packers, Broncos, Lions, Rams. What's sticking out to you guys?
Go ahead.
Sticking out, let me get the current numbers up. Nothing's super jumping out. I mean, the game last night was pretty wild. Of course, not good for me. I thought Tampa would get it back together a little bit healthier. Closed well. A lot of money came in on them at the end, but man, defensively some holes there and just really blew it down the stretch. God, I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall. It's like the third straight week, but I am interested for Kansas City and the Chargers. God, it's moved a lot towards Kansas City's Kansas City's way now. But man, the Chargers probably had no business winning the Monday Night Football game. Jalen Hurts, obviously, with the worst game he's had in his career. I think the Chargers had like 3 yards per play, could not move the ball at all. This offensive line is just, and I don't blame them. I mean, they've put all their resources into the offensive line. It's what Harbaugh wants to be the heart of his team, but they just had so many injuries. They just have no one left to block. So I don't know if the Chiefs are going to make the playoffs at this point. Probably not. It's probably like a 10% chance, but I kind of feel like they get right this week and beat the Chargers. But I was on them against the Texans too. Obviously, I didn't get it done. That Texans defense is just extremely nasty. I think the best defense in the NFL for sure. I saw Kip sent through his plays and said that he did like Arizona, however, this week. Which I didn't bet, but I can kind of see the Texans still have some holes offensively. They're another team with a bad offensive line, though it's gotten better. The Texans defensively, though, God, they look really good right now. So Kip's on Arizona. That's not one I touched, but I did bet Kansas City as a favorite. Once again, we'll see if they if they hand me a loser for I think the third straight week, or maybe they pushed one of them. But yeah, I'm not high on the Chargers right now with the state of their offensive line.
Kip's been rolling in the NFL. He's coming with Buffalo, Arizona, Philly, the Giants, and Denver, who he sent late last night, are the plays for the National Football League. And of course, obviously, we'll have him back on. He's down in New Orleans doing some horse racing and stuff. So we'll have him back on here for our Tuesday show. And I can't wait because it's just such a great time of the year, bowl season. I want to throw a question out to you guys since we have some time. And I'm a Cincinnati Bengals fan. And obviously, it's just been a very disappointing year. I saw something on First Take yesterday. And Joe Burrow came out and said something kind of funky.
Yeah.
He said, listen, he's basically just not having fun. He's like, it's not fun when you're banged up, and obviously it's not fun when you're losing. We obviously know that he's the most important piece to that puzzle, and obviously they've got the Ravens again this weekend. They are out for sure because they lost that game. And how in the hell they lost that football game to the Bills this past weekend? I'll never know. They're up by 10 with 7 minutes left, and they end up losing. I couldn't believe they got inside the spread, thank goodness. But Joe Burrow, is he going to lead the Cincinnati Bengals? Do you think he'll lead the Cincinnati? Are the Bengals dumb enough to let him go? They did something really stupid, and that is they spent all their money on one side of the ball, which we know is exciting. You can't let Higgins go. You can't let Chase go. Well, guess what? Now they got nothing left for the defense. I don't know where they are with the cap, but is Joe Burrow going to be? They kept talking about what was it, Palmer? That they came in and basically said, "Listen, I'll retire before they move me out of here." What's your thoughts on that move?
Well,
I would have said.
You get paid $20 million a year. Shut up if you're not having fun. Play. You're getting paid $20 million. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
I would have never said he was leaving before yesterday, but man, that was bizarre, and he did seem very down. I'm kind of conflicted. I'm definitely not on the extreme of Kai, because I do feel like if you're one of these guys that's absolute top level of the sport, I understand wanting to put a more competitive product out there. At the same time, however, I do think a knock could be like, why is one of the reasons they paid T. Higgins was Burrow was pushing for it. It really does seem like it's one of these cases where he's kind of gotten everything he's wanted, and
Yes.
just to still be upset. Yeah, I don't know about that. I know that Cincinnati for years was like the last of the NFL poll too, that they don't treat their players as well. They didn't have an indoor practice facility, which is just mind blowing to me. I know Burrow pushed for that, and I believe that they're building it now or it's done. So it seems like they've done everything to bend over backwards for the guy.
They have. And I know I'm a Cincinnati guy. They have done everything. They have put their entire franchise around him. For him to leave them right now would be a major slap in the face. They have done a lot of things they've asked him to do. But I certainly understand from a Joe Burrow standpoint. I mean, he could go to any football team and make them markedly better immediately. And he's a Super Bowl caliber quarterback. He's already been there 3 years ago.
Yeah, he's also got to stay on the field, though. I mean, there's just been a problem where he has not been able.
Do you put that on? Do you put that on? See, a lot of people are saying he holds on to the ball too long. Do you put that on him, or is it all offensive? Because a couple of years ago, it took them a while. I think they had 4 of their offensive linemen out, and they all got together. They gelled like week 6 or week 7. They started looking really, really good, and he was still holding the ball. And that's when he got injured again. It was one of those things where he wasn't touched, and wasn't the turf toe was the thing before that. But yeah, he's been banged up half his career.
Yeah, now you're making me sound anti-Burrow again. I swear I've come around on the guy. I think he's got the MVP potential, could get back to a Super Bowl, but I've long banged this drum, and that's why I was down on Cincinnati comparatively to a lot of other people for the last several years, not this year's. I just think sacks, especially in the NFL, are way more of a quarterback stat than people give credence to, especially like there were a couple of years where Cincinnati did sink a ton of resources into the offensive line, really upgraded there, and Burrow was still getting hit all the time. I do think he holds onto the ball too long, so I wouldn't put it all on him, but I certainly do think that part of his missing games, I don't think you can pin on anyone else. All that being said, I think the biggest issue in recent years has been how bad the defense has been, and I could get Burrow's frustration from that. Like, you got to have someone in personnel, and there's a lot of luck that goes into this. They probably just had some bad luck with guys they drafted. Of course, Hendrickson's been hurt again this year, but man, if I'm Joe Burrow, that's what I'm most upset about. Like, just give me a defense that at least gives us somewhat of a shot, because they've just been outliers.
Well, that wasn't even the defense's fault this past week, how they kept turning the football over. That was on Joe, too. Joe was the one that turned it over, that interception. I mean, that whole game was on him. If he's pissed off that they lost that game, it was all on him. And I know a lot of Cincinnati Bengals fans felt the same way. It was like, don't throw the damn ball away. I don't even know what that shovel pass thing was that he threw. I don't know what the hell that was. It was a kind of a loft kind of thing. It had nothing on it. It just looked like a dead bird. And he thought he could just throw it right over top of the lineman's head. He just swatted it out of the ground and was running the other way. So anyway, all right, we have just a couple minutes left. College hoops, lots of college hoops. It'll be here before you know it. It is here, but March Madness is right around the corner. Tell us what's going on with the college hoops in our world, and certainly again for hockey, college hoops, professional, NBA, whatever. K4Wins.com, K4Wins.com. We got it all covered. What we got?
Hey, we talked about it on the starting lineup. 22-6 are our last 30 picks in college basketball, and everybody goes 22-6. That doesn't equal up. Well, we had 2 pushes, so there you go. And I would love to get Case to look at these. Let me know after the show what you think. These adjusted numbers, Texas at UConn, I love. I don't know that I'm going to lay 14.5, but I'll do like UConn. The adjusted numbers I came up with, UConn's still top 50 in every single ranking, in Texas is probably 250 and below in everything. South Carolina State tonight catching 17 at Queens. Big fan. Maryland Eastern Shore catching 7 at North Carolina A&T. I like Maryland Eastern Shore. I like Austin Peay catching 4 at home against ETSU, and I like Eastern Washington at home catching 4 against Cal Baptist.
Love betting on games. I can see Arizona, Alabama tomorrow night. Give me a line I should stay away from, Case, and a line I should jump on. What am I looking for if I'm betting tomorrow night?
It's just hard. We don't have anything up right now. I'm looking at some of the bigger games. I know, we mentioned Arizona, Alabama. Another big SEC game that I think I talked about on the starting lineup was Texas Tech, Arkansas. They're playing in Dallas. I've heard some buzz for Arkansas, and I still don't totally buy it. If Texas Tech is healthy, I think they have the better roster. Arkansas will be a slight dog. That's one I would avoid. I would not jump aboard the Arkansas train yet. I still have questions on that team, more questions than I do on Texas Tech, despite the blowout loss to Purdue that I think kind of has stock down on them a little bit.
All right, thanks, Duncan Dad. Of course, Angel, the entire crew there from Digital Sports Network. We greatly appreciate you guys at Coastal. Thank you so much. And of course, Kip will join us back again on Tuesday. Have yourself a wonderful weekend. Enjoy the Army-Navy game. Appreciate you guys. Love you guys. Have a great weekend. Thank you.
Peace. Tony bounced quick.
Does he have another show?
I guess.
Yeah.
I think we're still on.
Oh. All right. I'll see you guys.
Be good.
I don't need to be awkwardly sitting here.
Go Navy. Go Arizona.